Singapore says it welcomes the IPEF, calling it a clear signal that the U.S. is committed to its partners in the region and building ties across the Pacific. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, who attended the session virtually, says the IPEF is forward-looking with a positive agenda on economic cooperation. Mr. Lee says it includes issues that resonate strongly in the region, such as the digital and green economy.
It's important that the IPEF remains open, inclusive and flexible, enabling members to continue working with many other partners in overlapping circles of cooperation and leaving membership open to others to join later on, as and when they are ready to do so. We look forward to working closely with the United States and other partners to flesh out the IPEF.
Regional platforms like the new IPEF will keep big players like the US engaged in the region and are crucial for a balance of power. Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says that is why Singapore also supports similar engagements with China, such as the Global Development Initiative. He was speaking in an interview with Japan's Nikkei on a wide range of issues, such as the Ukraine conflict, which he says has led many Asian countries to make strategic recalculations. Heidi Ng tells us more.
The longer the war in Ukraine continues, the greater the risk that it gets worse, with consequences for the whole world. During an interview with Nikkei, Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong says, meantime, countries including those in Asia are already making recalculations about defense strategies. This includes lessons for the Taiwan issue. Mr. Lee thinks one likely conclusion to make is that it's easy to start a conflict, but hard to tell how it would end. Even a victory could mean paying a heavy price with broader international consequences. For now, all countries must stick to the international rule of law and support global institutions like the UN and the WTO. But he says realistically, not all countries will bow to what he calls superior virtue. So a balance of power needs to happen for other countries to find a perch and work together.
For Asia, it's all about drawing in the big players, the US and China, and engaging them in the region. When countries work together and prosper together, there's much less reason for conflicts to occur. When asked if a collective security structure like NATO in Asia would help, Mr. Lee says it's better for countries to have ties with both China and the US.
That's why Singapore welcomes China's economic rise and supports its regional engagements like the Belt and Road Initiative. It's also a member of the Group of Friends of China's Global Development Initiative. With Japan, Singapore wants to update its current bilateral FTA. One suggestion is to have more flights between them. Both countries are also part of the Regional Mega Trade Deal, the CPTPP. It initially had the US on board, but it later pulled out. Now, China and Taiwan want in on the deal, and Japan is concerned about the economic balance of power. When asked how Singapore, as chair of the CPTPP this year, would deal with these requests, Mr. Lee says it's up to members to decide by consensus.
Mr. Lee also says a global recession could happen because of drastic measures to bring down inflation, and a lack of cooperation among global economic powers will make a soft landing for the world economy more difficult. This comes as global central banks had taken a stance that he called complacent and quite relaxed about inflation during COVID-19. Stimulus measures were dished out very generously for political reasons, even when the economy was visibly recovering in the US and Europe. He adds that the Ukraine crisis has worsened inflation, with food and energy supplies disrupted. Still, he says such inflation-related recessions happened frequently over the last few decades, and countries had to act against inflationary pressures, or it would lead to serious problems for the world. He adds that he doesn't think emerging Asia's debt situation is as bad as it was before the Asian financial crisis. But the higher prices will cause inflation and hardship.